Hey everyone, my name's Andy. I have a Finding Value Finance channel. Welcome to the video. Who I have today is Andrew. He is one of my friends that we used to work with. We would always talk about building wealth, talk about investments, real estate. We talk about girls, everything, marriage. We have all these sorts of conversations together that we would have sitting in the car, sitting outside, going to lunch together. And I thought it was a good idea to bring him on to get his opinion on how to build wealth, since he is a little bit younger than I am. He's about 10 years younger than I am, and he has a little bit different perspective than I do. And I think it's worth listening to that perspective to gain a little bit different perspective than just mine that you hear every day. So Andrew, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, how you know me, kind of how we first started talking and stuff like that.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. So my name is Andrew, and me and Andy met about 5 years ago in 2016. We actually met at a gym. And while we were talking to each other, I was watching him squat. I think I was deadlifting, something like that. And while we were talking, shortly after we were doing that, we started talking. And within like 10 minutes, I think you asked me, hey, where do you work? You out of college? Where do you work? And I told him, oh, I just got done doing some Army stuff, and I'm actually going to work here next month. And then that's when you told me, wait a second, the one off of this road? And I was like, yeah, that one. He goes, I work there. So it was kind of a coincidence how we met. And then not even a month later, we're now in the parking lot at our building talking to each other about just life advice and investments and stuff like that. So that's kind of how we met. And I can't believe it's already been 5 years. So at that time, I was 24 years old. I'm 29 now. I've moved on from that work, and now I'm actually a systems engineer for a DoD company that builds, whatever the Army, Air Force, Navy, whatever they need, we build it. And I would consider myself pretty successful for 29 years old, considering, in terms of my resume, especially education. I've never been too big on education. So it's good that I am at where I am now without, a PhD, master's, MBA, all that extra stuff that seems like everyone's trying to pursue these days. Just recently got married for about a year. And well, that's probably something we might talk about. And yeah, that's my background.
So when we first met, I know that we would talk about a whole bunch of different things, but from an investment perspective, what were some of the things that we talked about in those meetings in terms of investments? What were some of the, maybe I'm not going to call it necessarily advice, but some of the things that I talked about with you in terms of, say, like real estate and different asset classes like crypto and maybe precious metals and all that stuff? Because I know that we had like a war for a little while. You were pro crypto.
Yeah.
I was pro precious metals.
Yep.
We definitely saw it very closely on real estate. So what about real estate? What did we talk about with real estate? What were some of your actions that you took in real estate? And you can even talk about, basically both of us taking action when we were kind of going our way through the real estate journey and learning about it.
Right. So when I was, 24 years old, getting hired on that job, it was an engineering job. So shortly out of college, I felt like my salary was a lot of money. You look at it now and it really wasn't, but I felt like it was enough money. I was kind of on cloud nine for being 24. And I had a mentor at the time also mentioned to me, she was like saying, hey, one of the greatest things I ever did was buy a house when I was young and had roommates. And, that was like the seed that was planted in my head. Didn't really act on it too much, but it was there. And then I started talking to you about it, and you were saying the same thing. And that's when I really started going, okay, it's like the seed got planted, and now we were already good friends at that point, and you were talking about it. And you were telling me, remember one of the first things you said was, do you know people that would want to live with you? And I go, yeah, of course. I've got my brother, and I've got his friends, my friends, and all that. And then that's when you said, dude, if you could just buy a house, you can just rent out rooms to them and they'll pay your mortgage for you. But however, make sure if you don't have roommates, that's still a place you can afford. And so sure enough, I looked into it with a strategy. That's also really important. You have to have a strategy. What are you looking for when you're looking for a home? And for me, it was, I am looking for a place to rent to roommates. And then if I leave that home, that's an asset I can use to continue renting out to other people. And so I told my real estate agent that, and he helped me find a place. I found one spot, we looked at it, and I bought it. I never looked at a second home. It was perfect. And it's the home I'm still in right now. And sure enough, I mean, I was paying maybe $200 a month. With all my roommates, I was paying maybe $200 a month. And right now, to date, it's probably the best asset I own. It's grown a ridiculous amount of equity. Everyone knows what's going on in the past couple of years. And so it's been really good owning this house, being able to do that.
What were some of the criteria that you wanted to have in this house that when you were purchasing? Was it like the number of bedrooms, location? Like what exactly were you looking for in the house when you were evaluating different homes?
Yeah, definitely. So location was good. One of the reasons why with location was there's a lot of military bases where we live. So I wanted to be close to a military base so that if I do leave this house and go somewhere else, there's a rotation of soldiers and airmen that could rent this place. The next thing was bedrooms, especially with floors, because if there was a bedroom on each floor, which there is, I could rent to someone upstairs, or I was actually upstairs. Then I had a friend in the first floor, and then I had a friend in the basement. So it was 3 of us total in this house, and it felt like everyone had their own space. And so everyone was relatively happy. And then I would say the final thing was the outdoors area in terms of upkeep. So the home was full stucco, so it's low maintenance. There's no backyard, actually. Everything is owned by the HOA, which is bad for, if you've got dogs and you're raising kids and you want a backyard. But if you're a renter, you really don't want to be mowing your grass. You don't want to be doing any of that. And so that's the third thing I was really looking for. And so when I found a place that had all 3 of these, I was like, oh, and it was on a good deal. It was just a killer deal because they had to, previous owners had to back out of a purchase, and now they were getting desperate to get their sale going because they already had their dream house on lock. And the original buyer of this place backed out, and now they're like, man, we gotta cut this by an extra 15 grand so we can get someone to buy it now. Which, by the way, is a poor purchasing strategy on their part. So there's a lesson. I learned something from them as well when I bought this place.
Yeah, another thing, like if you were to estimate, and you don't have to be perfect on this, how much equity do you think you have gained in the house, and how much appreciation or total equity do you think you have right now, if you were to take a random guess? And how much did you, and roughly how much did you put down? Because that would be your return.
Right.
If you care to share.
Yeah, no, I didn't put down much because it was just so cheap at the time. I didn't feel like putting down much. And this is going to go into our next conversation. I had a lot of money in crypto and I didn't want to pull out yet. But no, I maybe 15 down. I think I did the 5% or somewhere along those lines. And now it's definitely 150 to 200,000 in equity.
So you put $15,000 down.
Yeah.
And you now have equity of $150,000. What is that return? That's 10 times your money.
It's a 10 bagger.
That's a 10 bagger without even really thinking about it. No. And what was your carrying costs, which were basically nothing because you had roommates.
Right.
So each month you were actually living a cheaper lifestyle. Your payments are less than you would be if you had to rent or do something different.
Exactly.
On that. Now, I know a lot of people have questions on how did you finance it? Did you do like a fixed rate? Like how did you go about financing it? And did you refinance? Like what's the background there? Like how did you navigate through that? And roughly when did you like buy the house in terms of the time frame of it?
Yeah, that was, I'm about to hit 4 years. So that was February of 2017. I do have military service. So I was looking into the VA loan. When I mean I'm talking about me and the mortgage lender, the loan writer or whoever it was, and didn't qualify just yet, didn't have enough years. And I do now, but that's if I wanted to buy another place. And so we just looked at the conventional loan with a big enough down payment, and the interest rates at that time were still pretty low. And so, I mean, it was good enough, and just pulled the trigger because it just seemed like too good of a deal.
And did you refinance the house? And if you did refinance, what did the payment drop? So you don't have to tell me the payment, but what did it drop by, roughly speaking?
It was over $150 from just the mortgage. But if I compared it today to back then, it would have been more. The problem, but you've seen it too, the taxes and the insurance for this city have gone up tremendously in the past 4 years. All the hail damage, so insurance has climbed like crazy. And then every year our city is upping the taxes. And then also because the equity is growing so quickly, that's also another reason why your tax is getting higher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know when I refinance, just to give you my experience, my original payment to what I'm paying today has dropped about $400 a month on the mortgage itself. So when I refinanced from I think it was a 4.25% loan to 2.75%, I refinanced it and it was like $388 or $400 difference. So my costs of owning the house have gone down with time, because I knew if we had a crisis of some sort that they would lower interest rates. I was kind of banking on that, but because I figured that they would do something if the stock market were to crash.
Yeah. You know what? I take that back. It did drop by more than that. The mortgage payment itself was about $150 in savings, but because of how much equity grew when I refinanced, I got rid of the PMI.
Mm-hmm.
So that it was closer to about $300 a month in savings.
Yep. And you mentioned something about crypto, that you were a big crypto investor.
Yeah,
what
yeah.
made you start in crypto? Why that asset class? What started you there?
So like I said, 29 years old. I'm right in the middle of the millennial generation. I mean, I'm as millennial as it gets. I got snowboards here. I have a Halo picture of Master Chief, a poster up here. I mean, as a millennial as it can get. And so I've got a bunch of friends, a lot of tech friends, software friends, and all that. And I got one guy who was like, hey, there's this awesome thing called Ethereum. I'm sure you already know about Bitcoin, but do you know about Ethereum? And I was like, no, I don't. And he goes, look, man, it's easy. All you got to do is log in. It's almost like Wall Street bets. He was like, go to 4chan, go to the business board of 4chan. I'm not advocating you go there. It's risk if you go there, if you don't know anything about it. And he goes, just follow those threads and find out what the next coin is and just put money in it and you're going to make money. And it worked. It really did work. It was just kind of like the Wild West back then. That was 2016, 2017. And I didn't really understand the fundamentals or anything. It's just more like you put in $1,000 back when Ethereum was like $60. I put in $1,000 and then 2 months go by and that $1,000 is now $2.5 grand.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just seeing money grow at that time. That's how I saw it. Money was growing. And so you just put more money into it because it just kept growing. So why wouldn't you put more money into it if it wasn't working? That's kind of how I started doing it. It was just friends saying, hey, this is a good thing. You might as well do it.
How much money do you think you put into it in the beginning, and what did it grow to at its peak?
Oh man.
Because I know it went really crazy while you were holding it.
Whatever my cost basis was, let's just say 10,000 at one point. That definitely over 10x. It definitely 10x at one point. It was more than that though. And then I watched that completely collapse in around 2018. And I watched it go down to under my base position to the point where I actually lost money. So you're talking about a 10 bagger and seeing it reduce to less than what you put in. And that was the, that cold market between 2018, 19, and a little bit of 2020.
Okay. Do you still heavily invest in crypto? And if so, why not? Like
nope,
what's
completely out. Completely out. Yeah. So what happened was, so I got married, and even before getting married, I was looking at the crypto market and I was like, man, I hope this grows just a little bit more. I would like to cash it out so I can have a bigger cash position to buy a second home. Because by then, me and you are already talking about real estate. We knew it was just going to keep going up, and I'm thinking, man, I don't want to get left behind for a second home, because I don't want to raise a family in this house. It's a renter's house, and so I finally saw my position 3x. And so in a 3x, I was like, okay, this feels like a good time for me to get out. And not just that, but I was looking around, right? And I remember I was at a work meeting and I heard somebody said, I don't know, man, I think Dogecoin has a chance. And like, if you don't know anything about crypto, maybe you know about Dogecoin. That was an alternate cryptocurrency made like 8 years ago, it was a complete internet meme about Bitcoin. Someone decided to make it, put a face of the Shiba or Doge dog on the coin. And I think that the coin itself is an unlimited supply. So there's no, like, as you mine it, it mines infinitely. And so there's no like supply and demand. You can't relate supply and demand to it because you can mine it infinitely. And I was hearing these guys that don't know anything about cryptocurrency talking about investing in cryptocurrency in a coin that has absolutely zero value, zero use. And he said, I think Dogecoin has a chance. And I think I went home that night and I sold everything. Like, that guy alone scared me into selling my entire position. Was it the right time to get out? Well, if in a perfect world, no. If I held on for another 6 months, I would have had a much higher position. Am I upset that I sold? No. I'm perfectly okay with being out of that realm, especially just looking at it, the bubble market that is going on right now, especially with NFTs. And we haven't even gone to NFTs yet. I don't understand them. But no, I'm happy I got out of that position. And I think there's a lot more into it too, that if we want to go into it, if you want to go into it.
Yeah. So what, I know that I know that you deal with the army, you deployed or whatever, and then you came back and stuff, and you might have looked at your investments a little bit differently, but what really turned the tide in crypto for you? Like what kind of had you where you were pro crypto and then all of a sudden you were like, I don't want crypto anymore? Like what happened between that?
Oh yeah. Okay. So to answer your previous question, really what made me cash out was, I thought in a way I was timing the market. I was happy having a 3x return and I thought, okay, this is time to get out. But in my mind, I was still thinking if it crashes, I'm going to start investing again, right? I was still a crypto believer. Even though I cashed out, I was still a crypto believer. I only cashed out because I thought the bubble was about to burst. Now, at this moment, I'm no longer a crypto believer. Really what changed was I had some questions about the way miners work. And I mined for 3 years. I had a rig in my home and it was constantly mining for about 3 years. I was breaking even every single month just from the electricity costs. However, when the coin grew, I absolutely made some money from that. But what made me, I had questions about miners. So I started Googling and I actually found a 2010 or 2011 excuse me. It was a forum on GitHub, which is everything tech. And a guy was asking, hey, what happens when we start reaching that asymptote of Bitcoin and we start mining all of them? And the guys in there said, well, the transaction fees are just going to be higher so that you can pay for the miners. And then the guy said, well, wouldn't that make if the transaction fees got too high, why would anybody use Bitcoin as a currency? And everyone said in that thread, everyone was saying, yeah, we don't really have an answer for that yet. Someone's going to have to create some new tech to fix that problem. 10 years later, we still have that problem. Now, I understand Ethereum's got proof of stake. It's supposed to be a better solution. They say it's going to fix it, all this kind of stuff. I just don't know if they can really do that. If you actually look into the transactions being made, there are less transactions made today than there were 4 years ago. And everyone's wondering, wait, how is that possible? Like, everyone's got crypto. Well, if you're buying within Coinbase and trading in Coinbase, there are 0 transactions happening because it's Coinbase just telling you where your money is. It's telling you what coins you own, what money you own. There's not actually a real transaction happening between wallets because all of it is happening within Coinbase's servers. So there's actually less transactions today than there was 4 years ago, which means adoption is slower today than it was 4 years ago. So you tell me, how's crypto going to take over the world? How are you going to buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin or Ethereum or Monero or any of these other smaller altcoins, Litecoin, Dogecoin? How are you going to buy a cup of coffee when the transaction fees alone cost you $1? That's an extra tax, an extra fee that nobody wants to deal with. And I know everyone's saying there's tech coming to fix these things. I'm just not a believer in it. Just not a believer in it anymore. Oh, and also, me and you talk about the energy crisis all the time.
Mm-hmm. So how would the energy crisis impact cryptos and the fees that could potentially happen with cryptos? Like, what's your viewpoint on that?
Yeah, so I mean, this is my opinion because none of us have seen it yet. But, I'm a subscriber of your channel. We've talked about this many times before. I think anyone that's listening to this right now is probably a subscriber of your channel. So we understand the market conditions. We understand the potential energy crisis. And so if the energy crisis happens and we see electricity fees like what they're seeing in Germany right now, just shoot through the roof, these people that are running these miners and their computers and their graphics cards in order to sustain the decentralized network, it's going to get crazy expensive. I mean, you have to have these computers running 24/7 in order to sustain the crypto, the network, the decentralized network. You have to have everything running. So if you're, how much was I paying? I think I was paying to have one miner going, which had 4 graphics cards in it. I was paying about $75 a month in electrical fees. And that was, 3 years ago. So if I were to do that today with natural gas prices increasing a little bit, it'd be over $100 a month. We haven't hit an energy crisis yet. What if that 5X's? What if energy goes up 5X? You tell me.
So what you're thinking is that the costs to mine, which is your cost curve of crypto, would dramatically increase. But wouldn't that increase the value of the crypto itself? Or would it just lock everything in place where nobody would want to transact? Like what would you think might happen?
Well, I think no one will want to transact anymore. So when I ask people like, what's the value of crypto? They tell me, well, it's a decentralized currency where we can pay for things without using a dollar or without using Visa or credit cards or debit cards and all that kind of stuff. It really, to me, a lot of people that like crypto are talking about the way things transact. It's a decentralized transaction platform. But if the transaction fees are so high, you're never going to transact anything. So it's not the only, I know, there's plenty of crypto bugs I will be able to argue back, but one of the things that make crypto, that have value in crypto, is its ability to transact things in a decentralized database. But if it's too expensive to transact anything, then no one's going to want to use it to transact things. So then at that point, people are just investing to make money from investing with other people investing. It's just this investment bubble that's just going to blow up.
It's a pyramid scheme at that point.
Yeah, kind of, just like the tulip mania, right? Or Beanie Babies. But at least with Beanie Babies, you could have it physically and then do something with it.
Right. It's a tangible thing versus an intangible asset. So you've got your doubts about crypto because of energy costs, because of potential transaction fees, because when you mine something, you run out of mineable coins, which then has to have those fees or those transactions or the cost to mine and transfer to those who are actually transferring these coins around.
You have to incentivize the miners.
So the fees would just literally transfer from mining crypto and having the benefits of owning the crypto to the people using the crypto. And that's where you were like, all right, I'm good. Like,
because I mean, for me, it's hard to, if you think an energy crisis is happening, you also can't be a crypto bull. If you think a commodity shortage is going to happen, you also can't be a crypto bull, because you can't keep building these components to use within the, through all the miners, all the different pieces that go into a graphics card. You're looking at everything going on with Taiwan. They're saying Taiwan's the hub of all those, I can't remember what it's called, but the chips to go into all these different computer parts. We've got so much going on in terms of potential energy crisis and potential commodity shortage. If you think that's going to happen, to me, there's a conflict if you also think crypto is going to go through the moon. They're competing against each other, is what I'm saying. And so when I had to pick one, in my mind, I had to pick one. And so watching your channel, being educated by you, and also just doing my own research, I'm thinking that the likelihood of an energy crisis and a commodity shortage actually happening to the point where crypto is going to be too expensive for the miners or even for proof of stake. If they start implementing proof of stake, it's just going to get too expensive to implement those things and to sustain the blockchain. So
then if I understand this correctly, you inherently think that energy prices will go up with time, not down,
Right.
Although people who are advocates of renewable energy say that the costs of renewable energy will continue to decline electricity costs. Obviously, there's no way to store it, but you believe that we have got upward energy prices versus lower energy prices with time. Is
Right.
that a fair
It
statement?
is. Yep. And that's going to be in complete competition with crypto.
Okay.